2022 marks 60 years of the Ford Cortina and 40 years of the Sierra. So we thought, we've got these two fabulous examples of these blue oval icons. We thought Jeff and I go out on the road and see what they're like.
So you know I've got a bit of a thing for Cortinas, so should we start there?
Let's do it.
But first, our friends at Lancaster Insurance are giving you the chance to win this Sealy 12-volt cordless power tool kit, including hammer drill, ratchet wrench, impact driver, and more. Click the link in the description to enter, and good luck.
Right, well, here we are.
Sounds great.
So the first of our dynamic Ford duo, a very, very late Mk2 Cortina, 1970 car, so right on the cusp of the Mark III coming out. The Mark II, I think, was just a brilliant example of how clever Ford were again. The Mark I, there was nothing groundbreaking about it when it came out in 1962, you know, live axle, basic rear-wheel drive layout, but the way it was packaged in a sort of that stylish body and well marketed, it just had that mass market appeal straight away.
Absolutely right. It was built to the price that was right for that market, and they just publicised it really well.
Because at the time, of course, you had sort of the ADO 161100 with its hydroelastic suspension. Although an excellent seller, for the fleet market, it was seen as a bit complex.
I think the Cortina Mark II is really sort of Ford in that fleet sector hitting its stride, and you can see why. Actually, I think this slightly blander styling, dare I say it, it's slightly less divisive, I think, than the Americana-esque Mark I, and therefore it's got a broader appeal.
They saw that the Mark I was getting dated really quickly, and so basically nothing groundbreaking again for the Mark II. Same engines initially, although 1.2 became a 1.3, but a new, bigger body with that Roy Haynes styling, which was bang on trend. Of course, he was the man who did the front end of the Maxi and the Mini Clubman as well. This is a later 1600 car, so this had the Kent Crossflow introduced in 67. So initially when they brought out the Mark II, they had the 1.3 and 1.5 engines, as well as the Halo Lotus. Well, actually the Lotus was 6 months later after the launch. But then in 67, they brought out the Kent Crossflow, and that's what this has got, this and that lasted for ages, of course. Well, I love the slogan at the time, bigger Cortina means more Cortina, and the Mark I already had a big boot. And this had a bigger boot, it was wider, and so it just broadened that appeal a bit more. Of course, when they brought the Mark III out, they went bigger again, didn't they? They went up a segment with a 2-litre range topper.
And it's driving along really nice, isn't it? It's nice and smooth.
It's lovely. Feels like a 1600E, doesn't it? And of course the 1600E was the first non-Lotus Cortina to really have classic status. It's kind of the first real example of badge hierarchy. You know, that badge that you really wanted, the E, you know?
Well, of course, they tried to replicate that experience with the Orion 1600E 20 years later. It was less successful that time round, but it was the intention was there.
So you had that sort of 1600E, didn't you, at the top of the range, and then the GT sat below that, and this is a super, sort of nice mid-range, you know, maybe middle management. But it had that such a wide appeal, didn't it? Because you had the Lotus version, because you had the GT and the 1600E, you know.
That's the point about Ford's marketing. They sort of had a specification to suit every budget. They knew how to sprinkle a little bit of stardust on a range with motorsport and halo models like the 1600E and the GT and stuff. So it didn't matter that you weren't driving one of those cars. You were buying into that whole experience, that whole sort of family of cars. It worked. The Cortina, as I say, was bestseller by 67, and Ford never really relinquished that sort of bestseller position.
I know your favourite's the Mark III. I always like the Mark IV, but this is the first time I've had the chance to drive a Mark II.
Well, I'm impressed so far. As I say, there's plenty of room in here, great visibility.
You can still use it as a family classic in the way that, you know, countless households would have used it originally.
You can tell the suspension's slightly humble in its origins, but it's doing the job. You know, it's actually quite composed. The rides are okay.
And of course we've got a lot more speed bumps and things to contend with.
Yes,
and probably,
we've had those.
Dare I say it, poorer roads.
Yeah.
But this, it's lovely. I really liked Cortinas as a kid because when I was growing up, my dad had a Mark IV Roman bronze. It was actually stolen from outside my bedroom window.
Excellent.
And I didn't notice, and I was absolutely devastated when it was gone. But it was one of those stolen cars that actually got found again.
Oh wow.
So we got it back. Yeah, he sort of always had a Mark IV or something like that as our family car, and then he'd kind of have an older thing to tinker with. So we'd have like a Mark I Escort or a Mark II or something.
This is the thing, Jeff. You know, I know how much you hanker after a Capri, but this, in a way, this is your practical choice, right?
It's cheaper as well, isn't it? This one is a obviously at WB and Sons auction. It's a lovely example and a realistic reserve, just into 5 figures. You're getting a real timeless classic for that. I think
You're buying into a golden era for Ford in the UK at least.
everything you needed, not too flashy, but flashy in the right areas, especially the 1600E, you know, vinyl roof. I mean, imagine one of those in aubergine with the rust tiles on it.
Sounds great. Well, this is the perfect opportunity, Jeff, for me to remind people that with it being 60 years of the Cortina in 1962, that we will be marking that auspicious occasion at the Classic Ford Show.
Yes.
With its new venue at the South of England Showground at Ardingly.
Plenty of Cortinas there.
There will be. On the 10th of July, there'll be a link in the description for you to buy tickets. Do come along, see our Cortina and Sierra display.
I talked about my dad and Cortinas. And for years I wanted a Cortina. All I wanted was a Cortina.
Yeah.
Before Minis. You know, obviously.
Your Ford love affair predates Minis.
My Ford love affair predates Minis.
Wow.
And this is quite a nice moment because, like I say, I've never got the chance to drive a Mark II.
I think it's superb.
I'm genuinely impressed. The Sierra now has got quite a lot to live up to, hasn't it?
It really has.
So, from one 1.6 litre Ford to another.
Last of the line, Ford Sierra Sapphire.
Azura.
Absolutely positive, Jeff.
So 1993 car, just on the cusp of the Mondeo coming out.
So just as that Mark II was a last of the line Mark II, this is a last of the line of the Sierra. Classic thing that Ford always did when they got to extending the model life of a car. You know, you sort of think the Japanese were replacing cars every 6 years or so. And come 1993, the Sierra was over a decade old, but they'd sort of kept it fresh. When the Sierra came out in 82, it was really quite divisive. The jelly mould styling wasn't to everyone's tastes. It took the 87 facelift for them to introduce a slightly softer styling, and of course the Sapphire saloon.
Yeah, of course, when the Sierra came out in 82, there was no saloon. With the beloved Mark V Cortina still selling quite well even when they stopped producing it, they had to bring out the Orion almost as a kind of stopgap before the Sapphire then came out in 87.
To be fair to Ford, all the market research by the end of the 70s was saying that hatchback was the way to go. But actually by the time the Sierra came out, I think the results were different. That was the 87 facelift, which was probably the most fundamental change in the Sierra's 11-year life. But this is part of a 1990 facelift, which saw just slight improvements to the fascia. So you've got these different air vents and this different instrument binnacle here. You've got the smoked taillights and the clear indicators, so that's your giveaway of a 1990 facelift.
At that point it really was it was behind the Mark III Cavalier then, wasn't it?
The Mark II Cavalier arguably was ahead of the curve because it offered front-wheel drive and better packaging, whereas of course the Sierra was still making do with slightly archaic underpinnings, rear-wheel drive. It was effectively a rebodied Cortina, wasn't it, when it first came out?
It was never out of that top 10 because it was a Ford, you know,
yeah.
And because it had the might of Ford behind it, that massive dealer network.
A vast spec to appeal to every level of, you know, middle management, you know.
The appeal of the Halo model, I mean the RS Cosworth, which by the time this car came out was a 4x4. With that little boot spoiler on the back, even on the base model like this, you can almost evoke that, almost a bit of an RS.
Well, that's it, you're buying into that sort of, that family of models, and the RS Sierra Sapphire Cosworth was absolutely the flagship, wasn't it?
That's probably what changed from the Cortina, you know, the hierarchy was maybe a bit more blurred, in the sense that you got alloy wheels on a base model because it was a special edition or a run-out model actually.
Yeah. So this has just got the 1.6 petrol engine. It was no longer the Pinto engine by the time you get to this. This is a CVH engine that's been turned in line. They just couldn't match the emissions requirements and of course the need for unleaded fuel. The Pinto was just a bit of an outdated engine.
So the 2 litre became the i4 by that point?
The 2 litre double overhead cam i4 engine, probably the most competitive engine from the lineup. Despite its fairly archaic mechanicals, it's actually a nice car to drive. It's very comfortable. The ride's great on this. It really is quite supple and soft. The handling's not great by now. Cavaliers and the like 405, much better cars. But you know, the gear change's nice 5-speed box, quite a long throw, but it works. There's no power steering, but it's light enough.
Time gives you time to sort of reappraise these things, don't you? And when was the last time you saw a lesser spec late Sierra? They're pretty much gone now, aren't they?
And of course that's part of the appeal, you know, that people have fond memories of, you know, Sierras and school runs and stuff. A friend of mine, his dad had a Sierra 2 litre GL Auto with its velour and electric windows and stuff. I thought it was really, really quite posh. No such luxuries in here. There's the blanking plate here where the electric windows would have been.
Kind of charming though, isn't it, for all of that?
I love all the simplicity, of course. You know, the windy windows aren't going to go wrong like an electric window motor will.
By 93 though, it was outdated, wasn't it? And of course Ford, with a rear-wheel drive platform, you know, you couldn't really get away with that in a family car.
So they spent a fortune with the Mondeo, of course, but it was a world car. You know, it was sold all over, whereas the Sierra is ostensibly a European model. It's nice to drive. The brakes are good. All the controls are good. You can see why, even with this aged early 90s model, a fleet buyer or a private buyer alike would find this nice, because it's easy to drive, it's got a nice spec, it's practical. I love the ergonomic dash.
Does it feel to you, having now been in both cars, that this is 20 years on from the Cortina? I have to say, I think it does.
Yeah, well, it's obviously better. You would hope that Ford haven't sort of spent all this money on new models and everything for it not to be any better than the Cortina. But then look at it in the context of the time. The Cortina in the 60s, I think, would have been a better car than the Sierra is in the 90s.
Out of the choice between this 93 Sierra and that 1970 Cortina, which one are you taking home?
Oh, that's really difficult, Jeff. I think at a push, I would say the Cortina. There'll be loads of people probably screaming at me again, what do you mean at a push? The Cortina is definitely the better car. But yeah, I still...
It's what you relate to though, isn't it?
Yeah, the Sierra's more relatable for me. But I appreciate the Cortina's greatness.
I'm going to be one of those people that would probably write that comment, because the Cortina all day long for me. I love a Sierra, but that Cortina is special.
And I can imagine tooling along in that in 1970 thinking, yeah, I've chosen the best car for the market right now.
You'd be gutted though, wouldn't you, if you bought that one in 1970 and they just brought the Mk2 straight out?
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Yeah.